So what I wanted to do today, though, there were a couple questions I just want to get out of the way because I think they're really actually good questions that were sent to me ahead of time. And the first one is from Minnie, and Minnie is here. So she does have a commission she's starting to work on, which is super exciting. And the client wants an exterior round 8. So you guys can mute yourselves now while I'm talking. That'll just be helpful for everybody on the recording, please. Her client wants to do an exterior round 18-inch mosaic, and it could, it does not have to be a stepping stone, but she wants to add it to her garden. And she wants to know if she locates a round paver or ends up making her own substrate, what exterior grout should she use? And for me, having done quite a few exterior commissions and commissions in showers and different places that have a lot of water involved, or depending on freeze thaw, if it's in an area like that, highly recommend epoxy grout. But epoxy grout is got quite the learning curve. And trust me, I was doing showers only probably 10 years ago and near tears trying to do them myself. 18 inches is not that big. It's, you know, maybe about here. I'm doing, you know, like 48-inch diameters or big shower, you know, inserts and stuff like that. So all I'm saying is that really learn the product and work with the product before you jump in and make it, you know, for some client, because the last thing you need to do is ruin something you're making for a client. There are 2 different kinds of epoxy grout that I've worked with that I'm comfortable with. One of them is the Mapes version, and I think it's called Flex Color CQ. And that's the one that Anne-Marie Price swears by. She uses it in our surfboard online course, which is a great way to learn how to use that product. If you want to learn how to cut glass, not necessarily have to be for a surfboard, but it would be great just because she's such a precision cutter, the way she does it differently than Jennifer Coons. And she uses this grout and gives you a really good demonstration on how to do that. And she also does it in her stones. So if you own either of her courses, they are with this specific epoxy grout. And that grout is pre-mixed. And so it can stay in its tub mixed and ready for you. And that's one of the reasons she loves it, is that she doesn't have to do the mixing. The one that I'm comfortable with and have been using for years is the Spectralock one from Laticrete. And that's only because I've been using that one for probably about 11 or 12 years. I was one of their guinea pigs to start to use it. And you do have to mix A and B of your epoxy, and then you add their color, whatever color it is you want. It's like sand and the pigment and their version of the grout. So no water is involved at all. Yeah, I'll put those products in there and I'll put them somewhere else too. But yes, I can type those in a minute, or Jerry can. So can you do that? Oh, okay. So anyway, so the Spectralock, you do have to mix A and B first, then you add the powder. And if you look at if you look at the tour that I did, that's on our YouTube channel, where Annabella Weber interviewed me, and we did about a 7 or 8 minute tour of the different commissions I have at a couple of the homes up here in Santa Barbara. And there's another thing you can add to this grout, which is called their Part D as in dog, and it's a sparkle. It has like a little bit of glitter. It is glitter, and it's their version of glitter. So they have gold and copper and silver. And Kelly Knickerbocker, in her course, Glass on Mirror Color Texture Bling, she demonstrates how to use the grout that way. And it's the epoxy grout from Laticrete Spectralock, and she puts the Part D in for a little bit of sparkle. So if anybody is interested in learning how to use epoxy grout, that's my spiel on it. And when I do any of my commissions, you'll see on my website, like the ones I just said about the house in Santa Barbara, or my latest one I finished, well, I guess it's been 1.5 years now, was the letter B. It was a 48-inch diameter mosaic, all in Mexican smalty. It's at the front door of someone's home as they're walking in. And it is done in epoxy grout. I made my own substrate, and then I worked with the contractors. I think I told you guys this last time. I worked with the contractors to make sure that it was going to be floated up to the level of the field tile. And then once they installed it, because I brought it to them just as a mosaic, they installed it onto the ground, into the ground. I came back with my Spectralock grout with the color that the client wanted, and grouted it. And I had an assistant. I didn't want to do it by myself, so I had an assistant there, and the two of us did it. You have to do it in a day. And then I think I might have gone back the next day and cleaned it up a little more, but it's really important that if you are going to work with it, that you are on top of it, because once that epoxy goes off, which is only in a couple hours, you can't use it anymore. And you have to have really cleaned it as well, because it can stick and make it really challenging to get off. So that's my, what?
What are the two?
Mapei, Flex Color CQ, and the other one is Laticrete's Spectralock. So does anyone have any questions about that? Does that answer your question, Minnie? Yes, great. Okay. All right. The other question I got was from Martha Burke. And this one is in relation to my blog, the latest blog that I shared about trying to kind of find your own creative voice, which is, as you know, really important and something I strive for and I want to see other artists strive for. But I totally get what it takes to be inspired when you're getting started. So I don't want people to feel intimidated that they cannot figure out what they're trying to create by not looking at other artists, because that's how we all did it. I only had books, so I just looked at other people's art and figured out what I liked and how I wanted to do it. But then in my own artistic world, I was wanting to express myself however I could. But what Martha had said is that she says, I find I'm trying a variety of materials, copying other styles, etc., to see how different cuts are made and practice. But when I have a photo of my own or a drawing, I struggle to start. I think I get caught up in what tessera, what style, color palette, and so on. So I go back to someone else's work as it's easier. Totally get it. I also think I shouldn't waste the beautiful tessera. Even more so, it's money, it's expensive. Should I just push myself or wait until I'm more comfortable to feel what works? So that's a really, really good question. And the reason that some of us artists are at the level we're at is practice. It's just getting in the studio every day and working. And as you continue to grow that muscle of getting better, you can grow the muscle of your own art, whether it is a drawing or you see something in a magazine and it inspires you and you want to create that shape. But that's the most important part, is that, and she said something really interesting, is that she's working on her monochromatic piece for the June challenge. And I'm noticing with one color range, this is what's so good about this practice of the monochromatic, I tend to see shape more than a picture. And that is so important. So shape is like where it's at, because when you start, if you've taken Caitlin Hepworth's course, we're going to talk more about that in a little bit with the piece I'm starting to work on, is that it's shapes are where it really starts. If you take your mind out of, it has to be a leaf, it has to be a tree, it has to be that, and you just let it be a shape, all of a sudden your tessera is just going to make the different shapes. So when we're drawing, when you first learn to draw, we actually have an amazing course on Create Arts Online from one of our artists, and it's all about character drawing, but it starts with a shape, and then it's another shape, and then another shape, and before you know it, you've created a face, and it has an expression to it. So that's what I'm so glad that this monochromatic process or challenge has created that for Martha, and for any of you, we're going to talk about that in a minute too, is what it is to, you know, see these things and start to play with the different tessera. And at the end of the day, you don't want to have a hodgepodge of a lot of tessera. You really want to have something that feels cohesive, something that works together. Even David Jarvinen, when he uses in his abstract, organic abstract, he has lots of different materials in there, but there is such cohesiveness to it. So I think it's really important that as you are working and creating with other materials, that you really feel like this is meant to go here and it's creating this. And if you're doing an image, does it work as that shape instead of, you know, a specific eyeball? And, you know, people ask me that when they're making like pet portraits and stuff, it's challenging for them because they don't see, you know, the eye gets messed up. And it's not the eye that gets messed up, it's the cuts of the shapes of the tessera that you're putting in. So if you start to break it down to just shapes and pieces, and you use what works instead of just jamming a bunch of glass in there or whatever you're using, you'll start to see that you're going to have some aha moments, because these shapes are really what you're trying to create. So does that make sense to everyone? No, yes, maybe. Enlightening, hopefully. All right, so let me take you over to the other camera and just give you a little highlight on what I'm starting to work on for one of my own not commissions, my own piece actually. So over here is my tessera, and it's a big pile of it right now. So most of this stuff here, and I'm going to break it down a little bit more for you in a second, is found either literally, I went down to the bottom of our property here and found this piece the other day, and it says 1 gallon on it, and it's totally some old jar. So we have a school behind our property, and it sits on an old landfill from the 40s. So this piece was found in that, and it says Sloan's liniment. So it's got more like almost apothecary kind of pieces down there. And then Jerry and I go out to the desert a lot, which I think I've said more than one time. And I love to just look down and find all kinds of amazing things, including, this is from an old mine, and it's some, dude's shoe from a really, really long time ago. So this is sort of what gets me excited. This and Mexican smalty is kind of where I love to live. Now, can the two of them work together? I'm not sure yet. We're going to see. But that's why I brought this piece in. And this is Caitlin Hepworth's piece from her course, Salvage Treasure. And she made 3 different versions of finding treasures, these sorts of things, either at the beach. One of them is from a fire, what's left over, like jewelry and different things from her house that burned down quite a few years ago. And then this, believe it or not, if you haven't taken the course, are all pieces found down at the bottom of my property. So I actually mailed them all off to Australia, and she made this mosaic for the course. And then she mailed it back to us as the completed piece. So we have all 3 here. But what I wanted to share with you is what it takes to use different tessera and make it cohesive when you're working on with stuff like this. And so I'm still in the very much creating mode. And for me, that's what this means, is I'm sitting here with this stuff. It's kind of going to speak to me. I'm going to speak to it. And we're going to have this kind of, conversation. But materials is what really drives this desire to make this piece. It's going to be the materials. And I have a feeling it's going to be something that so it's just sitting on a piece. This is a piece of wedding board. I'm just holding all this tessera on right now. But the piece I'm going to create on is like 33 inches by, I think, 22 inches. It's huge. And I'm looking to see how I might make it look like a lot of these found objects are almost like sprinkling down. Like there'll be a few of them, it'll get thicker and thicker and thicker, and it may kind of like make a turn at the bottom. So it's almost like a flood, like it's coming down. And for some of you that may know, we did have a really bad flood here that happened in 2018. And 23 people passed away, and I made a piece for that. And I used a lot of the found objects again from our property, making that piece. And you can find it. I think I've posted it in a few places, but I can post it again. But again, it tells a story. And the way that I created that one was a little different, but I love to work with this material. And so with Caitlin's piece, I just wanted to show you how this, because it looks so chaotic right now, can turn into something like this, or the piece that I created for the flood victims that was given as a gift to a fire captain. So, so this you will see evolve over time based on my schedule, which is a little bit busy these days. But this is kind of just an inspiration to show you like how this can go into something like this and what gets me really excited. So I'm not going to be creating much here, but I did want to go over a few more things with you guys. So I'm going to come back to the other camera. Come on. There we go. So, so anyway, since we're not such a large group, I think we can do a little bit of discussion about the blog. And if any of you guys want to share like what you thought about it when you read it. And then also if you have anything you want to talk about as far as the June challenge of doing the monochromatic, or any other questions that you may have, because this is really your time to talk to me and ask me anything you like. So if you guys want to like raise a hand in the chat or physically and ask me anything, I'm happy to answer those questions for you. And we can do it, you know, live, because I think we have a little bit of time. Yeah, we've got about 35 minutes that we can just chat about the different stuff that you guys are working on, questions, anything, you know, need some guidance on, just let me know. Anyone? Anyone?
I have to say that your blog entry really hit home, because I really struggle with finding my voice. And in fact, I work for a university here in St. Louis, and so I get to take free college courses.
Yay.
And I took one last summer that was called Enhancing Your Creativity, and it kind of forced you to be creative, but also do things outside your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be really helpful, but I keep wanting to try all these different Mosaic things, because I just have no idea what direction to go in. So I still continue to struggle with it. So,
is there anything that you've created that gets you the most excited, a material or a certain style?
well, it's interesting, because like the abstract kind of things I really like, but I actually find it more intimidating to do an abstract thing than to do something that is more realistic.
Yeah.
Because with the realistic thing, as you're doing it, you can see what you're getting.
Right.
And I'm just not, I guess I just need more knowledge to figure out.
Well, and I think it comes with like, I mean, so this is going to be like such a big teaser, but we actually have a course in the queue from Kelly Knickerbocker that is abstract. And so it will be coming out in the next couple months. But that's kind of Kelly's process. Is she went from working in the stained glass, and, you know, the radical dimensions was kind of her first real doing things outside the box, as Kelly is so famous for, in stained glass. And then it's just been such an evolution. So I don't put so much pressure on yourself that you've got to like figure it out tomorrow. But just kind of the honing, like if you really do like abstract, then you can study it. And like what I've been trying to tell everybody is make something small. You know, I do have a course coming out called Small But Mighty, because that's really, you know, the intimidation comes from, you know, the bigger the canvas, the more overwhelming it's going to be. And so the smaller your canvas, your substrate, whatever you want to call it, then all of a sudden it's accomplishable. And that was part of the demo in under 20 that I did too, because, you know, my Mexican blanket series that I've done lots of over the years is just something that gives me gratification. And it, you know, Kelly loves it. Every time Kelly sees it in the studio, she's like, God, I just love that you did that. It's so perfect for like exactly that. It's abstract. It doesn't follow any of the rules as far as on Demento, which I'm very open about, but it makes me happy. And I've got one, I'll bring it out and show you on the other computer, that's on on the other camera, that's on an undulation, and it has a piece of, guess what, rusted like nail or wire or something in it, because that's what I love. So I think the smaller you work on something that makes you happy, and I never want people to feel like they can't be inspired by seeing other people's work, but it's more about, we really don't want to copy other people's work. And I know you're supposed to copy a little bit like Picasso and the whole thing with, you know, making sunflowers, you got to do it like Van Gogh if you want that style. But there's always a tweak. There's always something where you can be like, oh, why don't I try that? And that's the artist, is the artist that says, why don't I try that? And just because it came out of you, it's just something you thought of that you wanted to create, not because he made the petal go exactly that way or he did that. So yes, when you want to make a pet portrait for a commission or your animal, you want it to look like the image you are creating. And, you know, if you want to study Donna Van Hoosier's style, which a lot of people do, then you really do have to copy her style. But then there's got to be a way that you can be like, kind of what I've seen Margot Valens doing lately is she's doing them differently. She's learning the values. She's learning how to use the tessera a little differently. And she's creating, you know, these pet portraits, but they don't look exactly like Donna Van Hoosier's. Does that make sense? Anybody else with questions? Nancy, I see you poking something. No? Okay. So what does, oh, is that you? Are you there?
I'm here
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Can you hear? Is it
Are
me?
there two of us?
I
Okay.
think there's two of us. I'm up, I think. Am I up? I don't see me now. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you turned your camera off.
I did. I'm such a klutz with this stuff. Okay, there's my camera. Let me
Okay,
see.
so
Okay. Okay, so I've been working on my monochromatic, and I tend to be the opposite of abstract. I mean, I like to do things that are very, I don't know, more not abstract designs, things that like mandalas where you have patterns and things that are hearts that are a pattern. And then I loved the color. I'm big into color. I love to add colors. So the monochromatic one, I want to show you guys because I'm kind of don't know what to do with the grout. Okay, so this is it. Those are mirrors. And these are mirrors that I think they reflect a lot. And it's all blue except for the white here.
yep.
And there's. So my daughter thought black grout, and I do a lot of black grout because I love it. But this, I'm not sure. And I don't know if I should go blue grout. Can you guys see that? I kind of want to do a blue grout because I'm not really familiar with blue grout. But if I did, which blue grout would I do? I'm going to have to mix it. So idea,
well,
please.
if
Just wondering what people think.
Yeah, if it were me, I would definitely go with a blue grout. That's the whole point of the monochromatic, is to even make your grout be blue, because it's really going to change the whole effect. Because when the tessera and the grout are the same color, that can really work in a mosaic. And yeah, if you use black grout all the time, we already know what that does. So why not be adventurous, try something different. It's not going to break the bank. It's a cool piece that you made, and you get to all of a sudden be like, oh, that's what blue grout does on a blue piece. And I would go more with the darker blue. If you're going to mix it, I would use something that matches more into that darker, because that'll also help with what the theory of darker grout does, which is create more drama amongst that lighter tessera. Because if you go with the lighter blue or like almost white grout, we all know what that does, and it's not as pretty. So I highly recommend doing one blue color and seeing what that turns out like. And please, I can't wait to see these. I'm so excited. Everyone's taking it's on. This is going to be fun. I got to think of what the next one's going to be. So Kelly, did you want to share?
Yeah, so I wanted to say that I want to do this monochromatic challenge, and I too am drawn to the abstract. But what's happened for me is I struggle with what that abstract could be, but I'm really excited because I did your substrates class, and I made a little like 4x4 or 5x5 little thing. I was so excited that I made it. So it's sitting there waiting for me to do something, and that's what I want to do, the monochromatic. And I got reds. I just started working with Mexican Smalties, so I ordered some, and I'm very excited to do it. But I'm scared to do an abstract, which is very interesting. And I'm still trying to find my voice. And I think I'm headed in a direction where I like to do building scenes, and make them my own. I can, change what they look like. And so that's what I'm struggling with, because I'm very drawn to abstract too. And but I get scared. So,
Well, an abstract doesn't have to be as like complicated as like the painting behind me, which kind of is, but it can be as simple as my, demo in under 20 that just has, squares and rectangles and very few, choices to pick from as far as shapes, which makes it actually easier. And abstract more than anything is about the elements of art, which is balance. It's about the composition. It's about how you're bringing together texture and balance and color and values, because that's what keeps it from being a hodgepodge, is more those things than necessarily the materials. And so if you are sticking to this one color, and different, hopefully different red versions, which if you got the Scarlet Mix from smalty.com, my favorite, then you really can start to have fun with doing it and saying, okay, maybe on my 5x5 6x6, one of the easiest art elements is balance. And for me as an artist, it's always odd numbers, which for most artists it is. So maybe in 3 different areas on your 5x5, you've got something else going on, whether you bring in, a little bit of a different color that's maybe just orange, maybe stay in your warms, don't go crazy and try and go off in white or some other color, stay in your warm colors or something, but maybe make it have just like, or it stands up differently, or it just does something, but that's an abstract all of a sudden. It's all kind of one thing's happening, but your eye is sort of the eye does not get disrupted. It sort of just views it. And when you do the 3, the 5, or the 7, that's what the eye likes to do. It's like making sense of what's happening around you. And so if you look at that thing, there's like 3 different areas of mostly red. And that corner right there is actually red and a little bit magenta, red, and then red here. So my eye's like, okay, that works. It's all like, cool colors except for the red. And it's obviously, that's another thing you can always look at, is those are contrasting colors or complementary colors, the blue and the red and the green and the red. And so get your color wheel out. There's different things that you can figure out with abstract that don't have to be just, trying to go like in some crazy, direction, or doing 5 different lines. It can be very simple as the Mexican blanket, as simple as kind of breaking that thing down. But the art elements, which you'll learn if you do take Kelly's course, is really, that's kind of what pulls it all together. But she explains it a lot better and a lot more. So
do you lay it out prior to sticking it down?
you can. Oh, absolutely. Especially on something small like that. And if you're just working, I would maybe lay out if you're going to do like 3 different, changes as far as like whatever that's going to be to make your balance with the 3 different focal points, lay those out and then sort of decide what your, background or whatever you want to call it, field tile, is going to be. But yeah, no, you should, dry laying, especially on something small, is really important. And I'll do it even on this big piece. Once I really get started, I'll have to dry lay it out a lot, take a lot of pictures, decide what works, what doesn't work. Yeah, no, it's never just I'm not a glue and go person until I know exactly, where I'm going. But too much of an investment.
Okay.
Can I ask Kelly what's behind her? The door and the window on your wall?
Oh, they're mixed media projects that I do. I travel internationally all the time. And then I take pictures of doors and windows and buildings that I like, and then I recreate them. So let me show you. So this, I don't know if you can see it,
Yeah.
is a door of a picture that I took in Cebu, Romania. And so I used, stone, made my own thin set color, and the door is out of balsa wood.
Wow.
And then this one is one from Cuba. And I just kind of made it my own. I made it a lot more rustic than it was, because it's got cardboard and wood elements, cardboard in the window. So that's,
It's great. I love
that I do.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Very
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you.
So Carol, do you have any questions or working on anything?
No, I don't. I just brand new, so I'm just kind of starting and gonna learn.
Good. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And Minnie, what about you? Do you have anything else that's happening other than this commission?
Well, I had a project that I was working on for myself, and I kind of boo-booed the grout. That's what I keep looking at to see if I want to ask you about it. But I figured it out. What I did was I just kind of regrouted a little bit of the holes that were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to turn it around. Can you see it?
No.
Oh,
No.
hold on. There it is.
Yeah, it looks like you fixed it.
Yeah, I did fix it.
Good.
So I'm happy about that. Question, you were talking about composition and style and all that. I want you to grade me because I really want to know if I'm like, if I'm on the right track.
Right.
Okay. I created this piece for supposedly Earth. It took me forever, but I want you to tell me where I can improve. Is there a way that you can flip the camera? Oh, here it is. There it is. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crockery, glass, and a few glass tiles. If you see that from afar, does that look balanced to you?
Yeah, you do. You've got, the dark green is going in two different directions on either side, which is good. And then the other two are kind of coming together. So that I like. And then you have the 3 tan in the middle. And those again, I probably wouldn't have lined up the 2 tans on the right. I would have juxtaposed them a little more, but you do have the one going off to the right at the bottom of it. That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. That's good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I that's what I struggle the most. So I do what you say, which is I constantly dry, put
dry
it together, look at it, take a picture, and until I'm really satisfied, then I'll glue it down.
Yeah, I think dry laying is really important. And unless it's something you're super confident with, I think without the dry laying, you're really, you can get yourself in a bit of a situation. And there are other ways to work, depending on what the materials are. In that other demo I showed in under 20, where you can work with the contact paper under a design, and then you can move things around. That's always good. And then if it's a lot of bumpy and different materials, it's hard to put the tile tape over it. So it can be challenging, but there are ways to definitely get the pieces down before you commit to something. I've in many of my past lives have had to tear stuff out, and people still do it. If it doesn't feel right, you got to tear it out. Or this last commission I did, the client didn't like it, and so they had to tear it out, some of the darker color of the piece, and it was a lot of work. But
oh wow.
Yeah, it was, I couldn't even do it. I made Jerry do it because it was emotionally too much that I'd spent so many hours laying this down, and it was all down one piece at a time. Because by then I knew what I wanted, and it was for the client, and the client knew what they wanted. And so I gave him the chisel, and I'm like, I can't even watch. Tell me when it's done. So yeah, so it happens. Wait, what, Nancy? You have to unmute.
Or did you have to redo the whole thing or just parts of it?
Just parts of it. It was just like a few sections that they had chosen a dark gray Mexican smalty, and when they saw it, they just weren't happy with it. And so I had made the substrate, and I was using a really, really strong thin set. So it tore the substrate with it. And so I had to heal the substrate and get it back to normal, order more of the Mexican smalty of the color they wanted, and then bring it, put it all together. I might be able to show you a picture. It's not on my website. It's not on my, yeah, is that what it's called? A website. It's not on that website yet.
Did you care? I mean, it sounds like you were traumatized, but I mean, did you understand their thought process, or did you totally disagree with them? And how do you deal with stuff if someone, I mean, I don't do
no, it
stuff
was,
like,
I do, here's, okay. Let's see if I can show you with the, I don't know if I have the, so this is it. There's the bee, and that, see that dark, see this dark gray here and that gray there? That dark gray was got filled in there. So I had to tear that one out. And
wow.
Close up. No, that's a tree. Yeah, so it was here, right? I'm trying to go opposite. And so it was, once it was in, they weren't happy. And it wasn't until it was all the way in 2 sections like that they said it's too much and we don't like it. And I'm like, well, you paid for it. And so I have in my contract that if I have to make changes like that, 10% gets added for each part that has to be replaced. So, you know, they had to pay for it in materials and my time. So it wasn't like I felt, you know, hurt by it. It just was more, I got other things to be doing. And so I've taken a break from commissions as it is now, just because we're so busy. But that was the last one I did. And yeah, it had to be torn out. So, but they love it now. Yeah, you know, it happens. And I've had to tear stuff out that I've liked, you know, and it just, for me, I was just not right. So, you know, it's a process. I mean, why didn't we all take up painting? Mosaic is pain in the butt. It is. It's like one of the hardest things to do. You know, got a lot of gratification, but it's also really, really hard. So, you know, you guys are doing great. And, you know, I hope you're appreciating what you're getting with Foundations and Fundamentals and learning stuff. I wish I had it when I was, you know, first starting out, with being able to bounce things off of people. You know, Laurel True was my first teacher and I was scared to death of her. And I didn't know how to ask her or talk to her, but now she's one of my, you know, dear friends.
I'm taking her class in Portland in July, if anybody wants to go. I saw her work on the walls at Hacienda Mosaico when I was there, and her work is just fabulous. So I'm a fan of hers, but I've never actually met her. You know, I've just seen some of her work there, and I just think she's fabulous. So I was thinking I would, when something was on the West Coast and not in Europe, or because I look on that where and when workshop thing, and so to find out where stuff is, I love going to workshops. So
yeah, she taught that workshop. She taught that workshop here in Santa Barbara a couple summers ago. And so we have here on our wall 3 pieces that she used. Yeah, she used our wall as you know. So yeah, we're just missing her. We're actually going to Portland next week, and she's going to be just still on the road coming back from New Orleans. So we're actually just going to miss her.
She's doing a pop-up there this weekend.
Exactly. So yeah, have fun with her. She's an amazing teacher. She's the best at what she teaches. And you couldn't learn from a better person for what she's doing. And yeah, her stuff at Hacienda Mosaico, they're so fortunate to have her work all over the walls there, and she's continuing to do it. So
yeah, it's fabulous. So,
yeah, it's really, really awesome. So if you're into that style of working big and working in a formulaic way, because you got to do something, you know, to get it on a wall and you want it to stay. I did 44 square feet in between 2 bathrooms in a community workshop space here in Santa Barbara. And I did the same exact, you know, method, which is, you know, learn the contact paper with the tile tape and doing your registration marks and all that kind of stuff, which I sort of teach in the, a little bit in the vertical, but, you know, leave it to her to do the contact paper and the tile tape. She's really, really good at it.
Cool.
So anyone have any other? What?
I'm sorry, this is not having to do with that, but Portland, do you have a suggestion of where to stay? Do you have a place because that's near her studio? Because
no, I don't even know where she lives there or anything. No, we're staying at a different place than, no, I have no idea where she's at, and I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So. Thanks anyway.
You can ask her, she'll help you.
We're the first group to come to this Portland studio, apparently. She says she has not done classes here before. She's always done the New Orleans site.
Right.
And so when I asked her, she said, I don't know where people are gonna stay because no one's come before. So this is, we're the first group, I think.
Right, right.
Anyway.
So does anyone else have any questions? Caron, is it Karen or how am I gonna, I don't want to say it wrong. And if there's anything else you guys want to go over, I know you're all just learning and working on your own projects. And then hopefully everyone will be able to post by the end of the month their challenge, and we'll get another challenge going.
I would like to question just where I'm coming from. Everything I do is an experiment. Everything I do is something new. So it's never looking skilled at anything. But I've recently decided I want to do beads and chains and rocks. And I'm very excited that you're going to have Rachel, and I forgot her last name, from the UK.
Rachel Davies. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm excited about what her course is going to be like, because those are the kind of things.
I think you'll love it. It's probably the best way to teach what she does, because she's doing so many different versions of it on one piece. So
Okay.
yeah, that'll come out July 15th or 6th. I think the 16th is a Friday. So that course will launch then. And we have Mark Brody. He did a whole thing on lettering and all different ways that you can make letters in Mosaic. So that comes out on the 25th.
Now, the thing with Rachel, is that going to be her shale and things?
Slate, not shale, slate.
Okay.
And if you can get shale, that works too. But all her work is mostly in slate, but she does show a little bit of how to work with the shale, but her work
I don't
is
know
in
how
slate.
to cut it. I mean, I took Rachel Sager's little mini course on that.
Yeah,
So
that's just a taster for what's to come. Yeah, Sager works mostly in shale because that's what she gets on her part of the world. And then Davies works in slate because that's what she gets in Scotland. And we have found a couple locations, a couple resources here in the States of the slate. So you'll still be able to get it, and you don't have to use a hammer and a hardy and all that. So
don't have to use
very
it.
doable.
Okay. I mean, I have a hammer and a hardy, but I'm still trying to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
But so I'm getting beads, and I'm getting gems and all these different things that I want to incorporate in it. I'm still having a terrible problem with andamento. It's like I put pieces down and I say, this is chaotic and messy looking. This isn't like Annabella's. This isn't like Rachel's. When I bought the course for Rachel's, the 3 rings. I forgot what it's called.
The Malmishkiat. Oh, the Ven. The Ven.
And I cannot figure out how to do it, because I look at hers and I look at the andamento and how it all comes together, and I'm just
it doesn't have to be andamento. I mean, she does one where it's Malmishkiato. So if you just wanted to do a bunch of filati in one, you don't have to do the Malmishkiato. But if you even bought filati, or you bought your beads, or whatever you're doing, the Ven's more about like what comes together in the center. And no, you don't want to make it chaotic by using like probably 8 different materials. But you can, but the Ven is great because of why she designed that course. Is the walls is the way to keep something, her materials enclosed, but in a very cohesive way. And so you can collect all the materials you want. It doesn't mean you have to use them all in one piece. So if you're learning from Catherine England, you want to use beads, then get the best substrate you can, and work with beads in a really cool way. Or if you're wanting to learn the Ven, then just use 1 or 2 materials to do the Ven, and then that you bring those materials together in the center, in the liminal, whatever that word is. I'm not.
But nothing looks organized. I mean, I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
I'm playing around with it.
You can make it look organized.
Nothing looks organized in my work. Everything's messy.
Well, then that's something you should work on. That's something you should say, okay, this is too much. How can I make it look more clean or cohesive by a little less?
It's the cutting of the andamento that's and piecing it together. I piece it together and I think, oh, this is really nice. And then I took a look at it once I glued it all down, and it's totally askew. It's, you know.
Well, I would work on, if you know Rachel's course or Annabella's course, is just work on lines. You just need a long
Yeah.
substrate and just practice lines. You don't need to make something. Practice, 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 practice before you feel like you have to make a project. That is where, once you feel like you've practiced enough, then it'll feel confident to make a piece. But when you learn piano, you got to practice, practice, practice before you can ever play a proper song.
That's why I don't play too well.
Kelly, do you have a question?
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I know. I forget what it was that I just recently watched, where you talked about the Wits End frames and the Go board.
Mhm.
Funny story. I was doing a portrait with Smalty, and I ended up having to rip it up off of the Go board. But when I was working on it and I was putting the little pieces for the eye, I kept hitting my hand like, what's going on with my hand? Because I didn't know the Go board was fiberglass. So I finally was like, I think there must be a lot of fiberglass in this board. So let me lay some paper down just to protect my hand. And then I saw your whatever it was that I watched and was like, oh yes, they should tell people that. Why don't they put Weddy board in there? Do you know?
Well, I think
Is it too
it's
thick?
expensive. It's too expensive. They'd have to raise the
Oh.
prices of it. So if you have Weddy board, you should replace it if you're going to use it. Just take the Go board out and throw it away and get your own Weddy board or make your own substrate to put in there. Yeah. So if you don't know, everyone, if you do buy the easy frames, which I highly recommend in all the sizes they come in, they use a less expensive substrate. They give it to you. It comes with it, you know, whatever. But to keep the price down on the easy frame, they have to use Go board. And Go board has fiberglass in it, and it will give you fiberglass rashes. And so you're right. I can't remember off the top of my head where it was I filmed that, but I highly recommend that you get Weddy or the Curdy board or whatever, or make your own and just pop it back in there. And then you can use their same hanging hardware that they give you with it and just go on your way. Or very carefully, what I did, I don't have one right now, but what I did is I carefully covered the whole substrate for like the Mexican blanket one in the tinted mortar, and then I could work on it and not have the issue like you had. So there's a couple ways you can work it. You could do that too, and then it won't cost you more money to have to get Weddy or time or whatever.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Kelly, you finished?
No, we have a couple
I am. Thank you.
Yeah, in case anyone.
Whoa, what's that?
You guys all want to mute yourselves? Carol, can you mute yourself?
I'm sorry.
Can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that?
It's
A quick
some
question.
feedback from Carol's computer.
Okay, a quick question. I look at your thin set
Mhm.
and Annabella's, and it's smooth and it goes on the substrate nice and smoothly. Mine is never smooth. It's always roughened. Is it?
Like what?
It's not a smooth. It's like crunchy peanut butter instead of smooth peanut butter.
Then you need to mix it more. It's probably still has some lumps in it maybe that you haven't quite worked out with your thin
Okay.
set. So
Okay.
yeah, just mix it more, get really, just don't think it can get mixed in just a few turns. You have to really use, some elbow grease to get in there and really mix it good. So yes, it should be smooth before you go lay it down on your substrate.
Smooth.
It should be that, kind of hummus or, smooth peanut
That's what
butter.
it looks like. It looks smooth when I look at it, but then when I put it down on the substrate, which is the Weddy board, it looks rough.
Right. I don't know if it should be smooth, and when you go to smooth it out, do you notice powder when you go to push it?
No.
Does powder all of a sudden show up?
No.
Then I don't know. Is the Weddy board from Lowe's for showers the same as the smaller pieces?
No, it's from the Mosaico.
I doubt it. I don't think that Weddy board is sold in Lowe's, but you can ask them, and it should have it should have their logo and name printed on the boards. And their boards are 4x4 or 3x5 or 4x8. They're huge. But the ones at Wits End that they're selling now is the Weddy brand. And then if you want less expensive, but kind of is the same technology, is Maryland Mosaics sells one called Feathercore. And it is the Chinese version of Weddy board. But if you're making small pieces, you want to do all the same things that Weddy board does with the hanging hardware and all that, then you should be fine.
But I'm buying Weddy board from the Mosaico. It is Weddy board, isn't it?
Yeah, but someone else just asked, Carol just asked if it was the same from Lowe's. So
okay.
I would just double check if, I know that all the hardware stores sell Hardy Backer, but Weddy board, if it's being sold at Lowe's, that's awesome. Then maybe a couple stores are carrying it, but I have to get mine at a specific tile store here in Santa Barbara. And that's what I do. But other people that don't have access to that kind of tile store, then you can get it online for the smaller pieces. So any other, yes, Minnie?
How many layers can you use of thin set and alkaline resistant mesh for it to sit outside?
Here, let me show you this one piece I said I was going to show you guys. You guys see that? Can they see it? Can you see it? Yeah, okay. So this piece is the other Mexican blanket I was talking about. It's undulated. And then I put a like twisty piece of rusted metal in there. This one is probably at least 7 layers. I just went for it and I wanted a lot of it to be able to hold a lot of weight. This thing probably weighs 7 or 8 pounds. And then it has the hanging hardware on the back. So this is what I would recommend if it's going to get as heavy as this is. And this is heavy because of the tessera, but it's also heavy because of the amount of mesh and thin set that I wanted to use on it. So then this one is much thinner. And so if you can see this one, so this is the original one I've ever made. And this one, it's on a frame, it's on a mat. And this one's probably only like 2 or 3 layers of the mesh and the thin set. And I use a little bit of the mesh to show through just for kind of a cool effect, but there's many layers underneath it, even though you only see 2 or 3. Like here's one layer, there's another layer on top. So those are the ones that I have here in the studio, but you can go, when I did the piece that is the bee that I just showed you some pictures of, I think that was 4 pieces, 4 layers of the mesh with the thin set, but I was told to not go too thick because the tile contractors knew that they were going to be floating it on concrete, and then they were going to they're going to then be, you know, we're going to be grouting it. So it wasn't, you don't want, like, another thing you guys can think about if you're going to do commissions is I was told don't use Weddy board, because Weddy board has compression in it, and they actually didn't want the compression to happen with the Mosaic because then it could possibly over years go lower than the field tile. So I did what I always consult a tile contractor when I'm going to do something large like that. I never try and go off on my own or think I know what I'm talking about, even though Jerry always makes fun of me because I say I make contractor grade mosaics, even though I don't have a contractor's license, which I don't, but I always consult a contractor. So I'm never going to take, you know, it's obviously my responsibility, but I want to sleep at night when I, you know, create these pieces. So
can the 7-layer thin set lay outside and be wet?
Yes.
Wet?
Yes. 100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
The piece that I made, the bee, it's outside. There's a portico, but still, you know, in a big rain, it will get wet. And I'm sure the housekeepers, you know, wash the tiles and the floor, and that whole thing can get hosed off, no problem.
Okay.
So those are
Thank
the
you.
things you think about. You're welcome. If you're going to go bigger, because it's really important to really think about those things before you take on those kinds of projects. So, but I think we're going to wrap it up for today. And please, you guys email me or go to Foundations and Fundamentals and put it in the Ask Tammy Anything. I saw your thing about Stephanie, and I will take pictures or post the 2 pictures of my Mexican blankets. And I will be working on my commission you're welcome. Thank you for being here. In the coming weeks, we're really busy with what's coming up in the next few weeks, but we're really excited. And again, I hope you guys are enjoying Foundations and Fundamentals and finding benefits in all the parts of it. And please feel free to send me any, you know, feedback. We're really open to that. All right, so we'll see you guys in another month. Hopefully, you know, if you guys have any questions or more, we'll answer them then, and we'll see you guys with the monthly challenge and all of that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.